earthquakes and Alaska. I don't think we talk about either of them very often, but we're going to do both right now. So this is a major earthquake, Brittany, and you have a great graphic about this here. Tell us a little bit about where this is and what the impacts have been like so far up in our 49th state.
Yes. Okay, so Aleutian Islands, so think southwest of Anchorage. These islands all across from, Unalaska all the way to Anchorage essentially had a 7.2 magnitude just off the coast. Now, remember, you guys, that earthquakes are not meteorology. It is geography. But essentially in the simplest form, when these tectonic plates shift, right, we know that earthquakes can happen. When they happen underwater, this oftentimes allows for a risk for tsunamis. Thankfully, we don't get really, 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 really significant impacts like places like Thailand, over on the other side of the earth. But when a magnitude or an earthquake of this magnitude, 7.2, happens, it's closer to the intense scale. It is much higher than the ones that we get in North Carolina, South Carolina, which are normally 2, 3, very, very weak, barely able to feel them. And so 7 is pretty high. Now, we did have at one point a tsunami warning for that area. It does look like it was at least downgraded, I think, to a tsunami advisory, which if you think like 1, 2, 3 scale, a warning is 3 out of 3 and an advisory is 2 out of 3. So we'll watch this, but I mean, anybody who lives along these Aleutian Islands, I would definitely make sure that they are listening to local officials and keeping a very close eye on how things progress. Tsunamis are actually one of the things, probably weather, earth related, that terrify me the most. So I'm very thankful to live in Charlotte.
Yeah, and when we talk about this part of the world, they call it it's part of that ring of fire, right? As they call it around the Pacific. You have kind of the plate tectonics that you learn about in elementary school.
Yeah.
All those plates fit together somehow. You have the borders between the plates. Japan is part of that. Alaska's part of that. California is part of that. So this is on kind of that northern part of the ring of fire. That I'd imagine, not a geologist, I imagine that's why the Aleutian Islands exist in the first place. Probably somewhat volcanic at one point. I'm trying to verify here. On my computer, the tsunami advisor was popping up a minute or two ago, but now it's not showing up anymore. So it's possible that advisory has come to pass. Certainly if you're streaming us in the Alaska area, verify with your local sources. But it did seem like there was an observed water retreat I saw in a couple videos, which usually signals a water rise coming after that. But it hopefully doesn't appear to be a big impact up that way. But I've certainly never felt an earthquake quite that strong, Brittany. But the one that is in my brain is the one we had back, I think it was during COVID, 2020, the magnitude 5 in Sparta. And that woke me up from a dead sleep here in Greensboro, and much of North Carolina felt that one. And Sparta had quite a big shaking and actually some sizable damage up there in the Blue Ridge and the Allegheny County area. Not something that we typically see or probably will see again for a while, but usually ours are not even worth rolling over for, and we're thankful for that.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a 7.2. I just looked at the National Weather Service's website.
Right.
It's still showing orange, which is still an advisory. So it looks like some of those spots are maybe still under an advisory, but it doesn't look like all the islands are. So that might be, as you know, sometimes in our weather systems, like as the National Weather Service is changing things, they'll kind of go in and out and something will pop up and then it will go away. So that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, and tsunamis are interesting. I kind of... they're hard to imagine how that they work, but if you think about like a bowl of water, or maybe like one of those old style bathtubs that has, feet and you can kind of get up under there if you wanted to. If you hit the bottom of that thing with some force, that's kind of like an earthquake under the ocean. And then all that energy is going to travel through the bathtub or the bottle of water or the ocean in this case, and those ripples are going to come out on the edges, and they'll look a little bit like nothing, and then they kind of get a little bit like something on the edge. That's kind of how that energy, it gets forced up in the shallower areas, and that's when you can run into some issues. It is interesting if you travel ever in the West Coast. I went to Oregon a couple years ago, and I was so surprised to see this, but they have little signs that say, like, you are entering the tsunami threat zone, or you are leaving the tsunami threat zone.
I think we're leaving.
I wanted to be dramatic here, so I zoomed out my camera.
Did you do that on purpose?
I don't know how that happened, but that's pretty nice.
That was
I don't
very
know.
dramatic.
I now know
just,
which camera
figuring
Tim
it out.
has, because I have the same camera at home. Yeah, it's because, Tim, it's because you went like this
Yes.
that it zoomed.
Okay, so this is my my being Italian touch because I'm
there it
talking with
goes!
my hands, and it's
I'm scared.
it's just doing that. All right,
Oh my
we're gonna
gosh.
figure this out.
Wait, that's so funny.
Anyway, thanks, James.
Okay, sorry, we got a little bit off topic.